Hello and welcome everybody to another Collage Live Online event. Today we are going to be talking about collage communities. And before I welcome our panelists, I wanted to share with you some of the backstory of today's forum. This forum is a result of a year of work, a year in which we investigated collage communities, reached out to them, interviewed them, documented who they were, how they came about. And a lot of that work can be found in this directory of collage communities, which came out this last month. And today we're going to hear from a couple of the folks listed in that directory about their work. At Collage Magazine, this idea of collage communities has been with us since the beginning. It is something that we have seen what communities do as they run projects, organize exhibitions, host meetups, come together. It is a topic that we've attempted to tackle at Collage Fest in New Orleans and through the pages of the magazine. But it wasn't until we created Collage Institute that we really started looking at what the role of communities were in this broader phenomenon of collage. And what we found was something unique in the art world, that often artists are asked to be solitary geniuses, just kind of tolling on their own in their studio, magically popping up for an exhibition. And one of the things we find with collage is that the collage community piece is actually a really key part of what's going on with this movement. That what you were seeing is that across the world, groups are coming together and organizing projects, building networks, supporting each other in a variety of ways. But what we're also finding is those communities are radically different from one another. And we're going to see that today when we hear from communities that are micro-focused on their kind of home territory and those that are outwardly focused and running global projects. So to start, before we start, I will say that the folks in the audience here are welcome to ask a question, to use the question and answer function at the bottom of the Zoom screen, or put a question into chat, and we will relay those to the panelists as we move along. My hope today is that we're going to learn about a couple of collage communities and also have a conversation about what the role collage communities play, and perhaps even how one goes about starting one if there isn't one in their area. So to start, I'd like to welcome Allison Ann. Allison is a collage artist, a mail artist, and a zine maker living and working in Minneapolis, Minnesota. And after coordinating a few informal meetups under the same name, along with Ben Danino and Scott, whose name I'm blanking on right now, co-founded the Twin Cities Collage, where they bring together artists in Minneapolis and St. Paul. And Allison, thank you for joining us today. How are you?
I'm well. How are you?
Doing all right. I forgot Scott's last name. It's Neff?
Neff, yeah, the Image Butcher is his alias.
Now, you guys, how did the Twin Cities Collage Collective come together?
In 2017, when my practice started getting a little bit more focused on collage as opposed to mixed media and illustration as well as collage, I found that I was really looking for others. I really wanted to connect with others in person, to start working on collage together or talk about those kinds of ideas. So I started organizing some informal meetups, just under the name Twin Cities Collage Collective, but it was a very loose thing. It wasn't really like a group that was trying to do anything. We just had some meetups. It was fun. It was social. And then around the time of, I think the first World Collage Day, I discovered that Ben Danino, who I did not know previously, was having a informal collage event at Bone Shaker Books. And I was also having an informal collage event at a coffee shop where I had a collage show. And so we went to each other's events and we became friends. Scott, I kind of knew of from mail art a little bit. I had encountered his work when I was living out in North Carolina before I came back to the Twin Cities. And so then we all kind of just started getting together after the first Collage Fest. Ben went to that and met up with Nate Stromberg, and Nate said, well, what if we got a collage group together? And Ben said, well, I have this friend who kind of already started doing that. And then it just kind of grew from there. And of course, things are always better when you get a bunch of like-minded people together and start really working with each other's strengths and making plans together. And then, so we kind of say that our official start date was in 2018. It existed in sort of a prior form, in a more informal form, but it really started getting cooking when a bunch of us came together, and that's when it got exciting.
Interesting. I think we see that a lot where collage communities are just a couple people who know each other say, hey, let's do something and make it official. And it somehow moves into this informal to formal space. And this, I'm going to bring up our next panelist. Marco Antonio Nunez is the founder of Centro de Estudio de Collage in Chile. And Marco, welcome. If you want to unmute yourself. So you have a very different founding story. It's something we wrote about in the current issue of Collage Magazine, where your group really came out of or was inspired by some of the political uprising that's happening in Chile. Can you tell about that, speak about that a little bit?
Yeah, of course. Thank you for this invitation. I can tell you that Centro de Estudios del Collage appears at the beginning of the year with in a moment that in Chile are a political situation that it's very dangerous to walk in the street. So the people came to the streets to make collage at the walls of the city. So a lot of people started to make collage and to pay like a pay stub in the walls. So it was very nice to see, and it always also by a personal research. So the collage appeared in Chile 100 years ago, so I need this investigation. So the Centro de Estudios appears like that.
Interesting, and your group is very similar to Collage Institute as well as the Collage Research Network, in that you are interested in the studying of collage, the research of its history, and then presenting that academic study out through forums and different communities. And your group operates entirely in, more or less entirely in Spanish, correct?
Yeah, we are trying to find the local history about the first people who made collage. Mm-hmm. So all this information is in Spanish.
Mm-hmm. Excellent. Well, our next panelist I'd like to introduce is Miss Printed, who's coming to us from Norway today. Miss Printed is the founder of the Collage Club, an international group of collage artists, as well as the founder of the Collage Garden Project and the Scandinavian Collage Museum. And Miss Printed, I feel like Miss Printed shows up everywhere. But can you tell us a little bit about what the Collage Club is?
The Collage Club is a group that I started in 2016, and we dismantle a book 1 page a week, and we make a collage with it. At the moment, we're working with this book, and so every Friday, one member picks a page, and then we all use the same material to make a collage with. It's really for to practice your collage work and to be dedicated to make at least every week one collage.
Now, a lot of the groups you're involved with are in community around projects, and I'm wondering if you could speak a little bit about what the benefit of kind of engaging in these projects are to the people who join them.
It depends on which different projects have different outcomes, but most of it, it's fun. I really like it to connect with other people, to see what they can make. You grow of it, and you can connect with people at other places. In Wiel, for example, the Collage Garden project. It's on different places in the world, and most of it there are people there living, and they see the work. Yeah.
Interesting. Well, our next panelist, Marty McCoy, is also works a project. He is the founder and organizer of the Roundtable Collaboration, whose main activity is the Postal Collage Project. Marty, what can you tell us about the Postal Collage Project? You may want to unmute yourself.
How's that? Can you hear me now?
We can hear and see you. Welcome back.
Terrific. The Postal Collage Project is an annual global mail art project in which collaborators work together in groups of 5, and they mail works in progress, collages in progress to one another through the mail over the course of a 6-month time period. Most often these collaborators are strangers to one another when they begin, although there are times that people self-organize a group of 5 and they work with colleagues that they are familiar with working with. But generally it's a new group every year for people who are repeat participants, and it's really a kind of a social exercise, a social experiment in creative expression, expressing oneself, being exposed to other people's self-expression, engaging with that, with those collages, working into them, working on and through one another's works in progress. The process is a circular, sequential process. Every participant initiates a collage and sends it to one person in the sequence. And in doing that, they're also receiving from another person in the sequence. And this continues until on the 5th pass, everybody receives back the collage that they started. And it has everybody else's contribution. And then they complete that piece. And so each group creates a set of 5 collages.
And this happens all through the mail, where it's just a very different experience than, say, meeting at Bone Shaker Books in Minnesota and passing them around the table. But it's the same idea, just using the mail to do that.
Yeah, there are 2. I have done some workshops with the same method that happen in an hour, but going through the mail, working independently, and over a course of 6 months, really changes the experience. In 6 months, everybody's life changes in a way that it doesn't change in the course of an evening. And so that gets implanted into the work, all the developments over a 6-month period, and how people are negotiating their lives outside of this project, because they're going back and forth between their lives and into the project. Interesting.
I'd like to bring in our next guest, Kevin Samsel, who is a collage artist in Portland, Oregon. And Kevin, I like to think of Kevin as the expert at creating collage making spaces. It's who has organized the collage making space at Collage Fest for a number of years, and used to run an open collage night in Portland for a number of years as well. Recently, Kevin's been working with Cheryl Chuduk to open Sharp Hands Gallery, which is an online journal that presents a curated collage exhibition once every quarter, every 3 months or so. Kevin, what is the secret to building a successful collage making space / night?
Let's see. Can you hear me?
We can hear you. We can't see you though.
Okay, let's see. I'm hitting the start video thing and it says unable to start video because the host has stopped it. Did you stop it?
Well, we'll work on getting you on board. And if you're playing the Collage Live online drinking game, now is the time to take a shot. Where we take a shot every time there's a technical glitch. But Kevin, what's your secret to like bringing folks together and creating, what makes a successful space, meetup, open collage night?
Well, I mean, first of all, you have to find, the people who are interested and figure out, how much support you have and how many artists are in your community and people that would want to do something in a group setting, because a lot of times artists will be not super productive in a group setting. It's a different dynamic for sure. But finding a space is pretty key. And it's kind of like if you have a space and you have materials and you have enough like table space, workspace, people will come. And just getting the word out for the night that I was hosting here in Portland for a few years, it started off with maybe like 10 people or so showing up, and then it started to be something where there is 30 or so people showing up every month. It was like a once a month thing, and it was really great too, because it was also a very like welcome sort of there I am sort of a welcome welcoming environment. So there wasn't any sort of like judgment of any kind. Like it was people that were just learning about it. There were people who collaged maybe like 10 years ago and hadn't collaged since college or something, and then there was some people who were really serious about it, and other people who were just kind of like experimenting and sort of doing collage stuff, but like maybe they had other things they were using to like paint or like fabric or something like that. So yeah, it was totally, as the title says, it was an open collage night, and anyone could come and do what they wanted. So yeah, and I kind of walked around each month, and I would kind of chat with people and have people show me what they're doing and stuff like that. That wasn't like a requirement. Like people didn't have to like make something and then show it at the end of the night or anything. But yeah, it was just a sort of a welcoming environment was the key.
I think that's interesting about collage communities and meetups in general, is they do tend to be, hey, everyone, regardless of skill level, regardless of whether you're a professional artist, working on things, or just someone who wants to kind of hang out with other people. It seems to flow really well. I want to bring up our last panelist, who's Christopher Kurtz, who is the founder and organizer of the mystical crew of Scissors and Glue in New Orleans that meets monthly pre-COVID for casual collage nights, but then has been growing the group and taking on projects. For those who've been following Collage Live online, the crew group collaged a massive, 8-foot tall obelisk at the Ogden Museum.
And like 9 foot with the peak.
9 foot with the peak, but who's measuring, right? Your experience of kind of organizing and pulling the crew together sounds very similar to Allison's, in the sense that it was like super informal, let's just see what happens, and then it's gotten kind of more organized and structured over time. Is that your experience?
Yeah, definitely. I met Hope Amico, the other co-founder of the Mystic Crew of Scissors and Glue, at Collage Fest in 2018. We had so much fun at the collage making space that Kevin hosted, and we were both like, why can't we just do this every month? And so we did. And it took like half a year, I think, before our meetups really gained any kind of steam. For a while, it was just RNs who didn't have anything to do the day that we had set it, coming by and collaging. And then the more that we did it, and like the more regularly that we did it, we started to gain more members. Also, once we moved it to a bar, we gained a lot more members. And then since then, we've cultivated a core group of people. And within that core group, we've started doing projects. We all get along really well, and we all want to do these things together.
Interesting. And you were integral in coming up with the directory and doing a lot of the research. What did you learn about collage groups kind of through the last year of looking into them?
That they're really hard to define. I think you and I had some tension about how to define them and who should be included, because there is this blurry line between a collage project and a collage community. And sometimes it's not easy to see the community behind the project. And it depends on the way that the groups present themselves also. There were a lot of times that I had to do more digging than for other groups to find that community there in the project.
Now, most of the folks on our panel, welcome everyone. This is everyone. And I remind folks who are watching that you're welcome to put a message in the chat or use the Q&A function to pose a question to the group. Most of the folks here are involved with groups that are centered in communities centered around collage making, except for, I think, Marco. Marco, your group is less making oriented, it's more study oriented. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, the collage in Chile appears with the surrealism group about the literature. So here the collage appears 100 years ago. So so there is 100 that nobody already has written about it. So we need to know more about our past to be how we can do something for the collage history right now.
Mm-hmm. For those involved with kind of making communities, what do you do with all this collage that's being made? How does it get out into the world?
Instagram,
yeah. And we have our own group at internet, secol.com. It's primarily in Spanish.
And a few others have websites. Twin Cities has websites, right, Alice? Yeah. And then, of course, the Collage Garden, the Scandinavian Collage Museum, there's a website for that, right?
Marty?
I've got a website also, but I also exhibit the annual project 3 times every year. So there's a 6-month work time and then 3 months of exhibitions. Which is
also, there's a strong exhibition component.
Yeah, and that's really the way that collaborators get together, because it's the project and the process is collaboration at a distance through the mail. But then those who are in the San Francisco Bay Area, where I am, those people can get together at the exhibitions. And that is definitely one of the strongest experiences of the project, is to get people together, share the experiences that they've had over the past 6 months making these things. In many cases, they're meeting one another for the first time. So yeah, that's where the real community and social aspect changes from collaboration at a distance to being together in the same room and sharing experiences.
So, Ms. Printed, you must see that the Collage Club never officially meets or doesn't necessarily have an exhibition, but the Collage Garden does. Is that?
Yes, the Collage Club is only it's on Instagram, but there I have to say that Instagram wasn't our. It was a tool to start, so that we could use it as a library, so we could see each other work. We didn't. We never intended it to have a big Instagram account. We used it as a tool, and that's a difference with a lot of other projects, where the end mean is Instagram. But for us, Instagram is a tool. We also chat on WhatsApp, but that's also online. Some of our members have met, for example, on Collage Fest or on other occasions, but that's mostly geographically, how they met. The Collage Garden, that's really different, but there it's up to the host of the different garden what they want into the project, and there they have a lot of freedom because it's them doing the most work. And most of them organize workshops where everybody can meet up to make work. And there's also there always is the exposition of the works outside. So yeah, that's both.
Interesting. Allison, are the artists involved in the Twin City Collage Collective? Do they exhibit together as well?
Yeah, we've done a few shows together. We also were organizing a global mail art show that we had begun the open call for in January 2020. And we were gonna, the plan was to exhibit it at Bone Shaker Books, which is kind of our home base, in May. But of course the pandemic happened. And also Minneapolis has been very impacted, obviously, by some of the issues around police violence and race going on. So we had to, we moved that show online, so you can actually see it on our website, twincitiescollagecollective.com. I am going to do one more update to it, and that's because there were issues because the post office we were receiving entries at, submissions that actually burned down in the uprising. And so some of the work for that show was actually destroyed. And some of the stuff took a couple months to get to me because it was impacted by the pandemic and by what was going on here. And so there's gonna be one more update to that. And then our plan is to show that. It's over 100 artists at this point. Our plan is to show that post-pandemic, whenever that might be, and let people see it, but also put those collages that we've received, they're all like postcard size, like 4x6, into a series of photo albums and bring them to different events or different meetups and things like that, so people can view them and kind of be in conversation with the work, learn from them, that kind of thing, be inspired by them.
Interesting. So, historically there have been artist groups. So there's like artist run centers. That's a big thing in Canada, where groups of artists would create an organization and then usually centered around a theme, like particularly like printmaking, or maybe it would be photography centric. And you see that history of artists making communities. You also have the whole society movement, that you have the watercolor society, the and plein air painter societies. That's another form of community. And there are folks that operate that way in the collage world. Like I'm thinking of the National Collage Society and Collage Artists of America, as well as some of the more regional groups. And those folks tend to have juried shows and structure. They have an annual exhibition, and it's a process. A lot of what we see with collage communities is very nebulous and informal and somewhat casual. There's an ebb and flow to it. And I'm wondering why you all think we're so laid back.
Well, I think it may have something to do with the accessibility of the art form. Something like drawing is so personal that people feel so vulnerable about expressing themselves that way that they learn to say, I don't know how to draw, or I can't draw. But I've never heard anybody say, I can't collage. The materials are limitlessly diverse, and it doesn't require special tools or special equipment. And so it allows for a full range of devotion, from casual to serious. So yeah, I think that may be there is something very liberating and freeing, and allows people to operate according to their own sensibilities.
Now, Kevin, Marco, go
It's
ahead.
definitely a
Yeah, I'm sorry. I
Yep.
think in a personal way, there is important to be here in community to make collage, because you need someone to tell you you are right, you are doing it well. So if you are connected to the work art, it's okay for everyone. It must be okay for everybody.
Well, that's interesting, because one of the things we see often when Collage Magazine creates events, like before COVID in person, we did this event at Volume Montreal last year, and there were a couple of artists who came who were like, I just wanted to be in a room full of other collage artists because I did not know there were other people doing this. And it seems like a way to describe the collage community is it's a bunch of lone people drifting in the wind who end up in a basket together. And I think that there's a real sense of isolation out there as people move through their own art communities, feeling a little bit like an outlier. Now, Kevin, when you were running the open collage meetup, you had people who were just coming to explore, and then you had other folks in that group. What kept it so friendly, for lack of a better word?
I think it's well, part of it is just collage in general is kind of this, weird art form that is sometimes overlooked or not taken as seriously as other forms of art. So, I think knowing that the people who are really passionate about collage or interested, they will, they're kind of bonded by this knowledge that they're like the underdogs, I think. And I think that's one of the reasons why you'll see these collage collectives kind of like, sprouting up in these different areas. It's because people meet, and then it's like, oh, you're one of us, like you do this too. And then to sort of combine forces to have like a support group for what they're doing that other people might not understand or take seriously, kind of empowers them as a group. So yeah.
I think that's an interesting observation, because I think for a lot of these communities, it's that the empowerment of being in a community with other people, like all of a sudden you can do more, or people have your back. Is that one of the...
There's no snobbishness with collage. Mm-hmm. You can't really be like a snobby collage artist, I don't think. So yeah, but people are really excited to see what other people are doing, and a lot of people have their own styles, and yeah, it's just really fun to kind of learn more about stuff from other people's work and their process and stuff like that. So that's another advantage of these like kind of public events where people are talking to each other and like watching each other, and it's like, oh, that's cool, that's a cool trick, or that's a good idea, and they gather all these ideas from being around other people actually doing it in real time.
For those who are hosting meetups, how often does glue come up?
It depends. It really depends. I find it comes up more with people who have been involved in collage for longer, and folks who are maybe trying it for the first time or haven't tried it in a long time, maybe not since they were kids, don't have preferences about glue yet, and don't have a lot of questions about glue yet. Those come after a couple sessions.
Now, Miss Printed, you're in community with folks because you're in rural Norway, right? And you found you've been able to build community from you're in the woods, right?
I'm in a little wet house on a mountain, yes. And there has come a meter of snow around us now, yes. There are only 2,000 people living in the village where I live. But for me, organizing collage communities, it's I know that you need everybody. And with needing everybody, I say that everybody is as important as I am, or as if you're putting only one hour a week in it, or if you're putting 10 hours a week with everybody, you need everybody. You need the one who only have 1 hour, and you need the one who puts in a lot of work. And that's something I have learned from from left-wing radical movements, because there you have to organize everything yourself, and you notice that you can't do it without the person who is contributing, just a little bit. And that's
You
why,
found also there's a different kind of community you're involved with respect to the Scandinavian Collage Museum, because that is a physical place in your village of 2,000 people. Can you speak a little bit about how that created community? And you once told me a story about collage at the train station.
yes, I was very surprised when I started the Scandinavian Collage Museum, because it was just a quasi project. And I was really afraid that, in such a little village, that everybody would think like, oh, there we have the mad lady. And I'm working as a nurse, so I see a lot of people here too in the village. And but they didn't thought I was totally crazy. People responded to it really well. A lot of people, I never thought people would welcome it that much. I don't think anybody knew what collage was, and a lot of people in the village that visited on regularly basis, and they don't think they ever visit another museum, but they visit a little tiny collage museum here at the A6. And I think that's really special that it had that impact on the community. I even got nominated for we have one prize in our community, which we say a crazy but okay project prize. And the museum was nominated for that, and I never expected people to react on it that way. I would have been happy if only 3 to 4 people would have visited in a year. Then I would be really like, yes. And now there a lot of people are visiting it, and I never expected that. That's really nice. And
If we all visit, is there places to stay, or are we just going to camp in your yard?
I once saw a person who was camping inside the museum, so that's possible too. So you can sleep there. It's just 2 persons, and then it's full. But that's okay with COVID now. So
Clive in the chat raises an interesting question. He says, when does the momentum of collage communities become a movement? And he's specifically thinking of cross-European avant-gardes of the 20th century that became world transforming in art practice and cultural change. So we have this kind of network of communities. When does it become a movement? This is actually something I've been thinking about for a while, because I believe collage is a movement, but it's a movement of people, not simply aesthetic decisions. But all art movements are movements of people, ultimately. But I'm curious what other people think about that.
I think.
Yeah.
Oh, go ahead, Marco.
Oh, okay. I think it's particularly connected to Latin America, because here there is a huge political situation with the people are not good with all the presidents, almost. So here in Chile it's very, we need the president to go out, please, for the good of the people. So it's happening the same in our brother country, Peru, Brazil, Argentina. It was happening about a few months ago. So the people need to say something about it, and the people it's talking each other. Particularly here in Chile, the people started to talk with your neighborhood, who was a very political situation. So I think it's very connected to the avant-garde about this area.
Like you're talking specifically about the use of collage to communicate on the street about the political situation.
Yeah, it
Yeah.
it appears was something spontaneous. I don't know how to say it in English.
Yeah, spontaneous, yeah.
Yeah, yeah, it was very. You one day you see nothing at the street, at the other side you saw a lot of collage. It was fantastic.
Interesting.
That's great.
Christopher Kurtz, your thoughts about movement?
Yeah, well, I was going to say, I think it probably takes people writing about it for it to be recognized as a movement. Like you said, it already is a movement, right? Like it's happening right now. And it's not until it's gotten a little bit past that point that people start to talk about it in the past tense and then refer to it as a movement. So hopefully right now, hopefully as we do this work, Marco does his work, and we write about it in Collage, and we collect this, all these communities in a directory, like that is the beginning of describing it as a movement.
Interesting. Marty, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I think that that's a really good example of you describe them as a network of communities. When those communities are truly networked with one another from an outside objective source, as like a writer, and are seen to contain the diversity of political, public action, like Marco is describing, and to the other side, very personal and private groups with a full range. And I think that it also is important that this quality of it being accessible to everybody. It means that everybody can participate in this at whatever level they feel, whether it's personal and private or public. And that gives the potential for a full-scale movement across all various types of hierarchies and classes and geographical divisions.
It does seem like collage is still in this mode of figuring itself out. Like these communities are constantly, I think, redefining themselves. Like even some of the collage communities that we initially researched to build the online directory, when we went back to the book, there was a shift and a pivot and a refinement, not just because of COVID, but just as the communities live on longer, they figure more out about the things they can do and what they're about. Jennifer Wallace in our question and answer block asks, do you think there is an Instagram dependency in collage at the moment? And Christopher Kurtz, did you want to take a run at that?
Sure, I can. I've talked about that a little bit already. I do, but it's not a bad thing. I think Instagram is a great tool, especially for collage communities. And it's already been kind of said by a handful of people here already that it's a great way to start. But I think it can also be a hindrance if it's the only tool you're using. I think that there's, especially if we're talking about like growing a community and like focusing on your members and like gaining more members, using multiple tools is only going to be to your advantage. Email lists, Marty uses email effectively. Websites that let people learn more about your group are really important, I think, because Instagram is not rich in information. It's visually rich, but you have to really dig for actual information. They only give you so many lines to put in your bio. And then if you want more, you have to go to each post and like read what might have been written or what might not have been written. So I think that websites are a great way to keep records of your group for like outward facing reasons. And, you know, Facebook is another tool as well. I mean, and then social media is bound to change soon, eventually, hopefully. And I think that the sooner that you diversify your toolkit, the better.
Other thoughts on that question?
I think Instagram's been really key just to discover other artists and to make connections with people all over the world. So, you know, Cheryl and I started the Sharp Hands project earlier at the beginning of the pandemic stuff. So because we couldn't go to galleries, we couldn't like go to like social things. So we wanted to create something that was like a gallery opening. But since people couldn't go to a gallery, we just created this website to sort of emulate like a gallery feel. And a lot of the people, I think pretty much everyone that we've worked with so far have all been people that have Instagram accounts, people we've connected through Instagram. And that's been really great because it's also, you know, a very, very wide range of work, from not only like stylistically, but geographically. It's very, very huge scope. So, you know, we use Instagram to promote the different shows and the different artists that we're putting up on the website. And yeah, so, you know, I mean, I know like a lot of people sometimes aren't fans of Instagram or whatever, but you know, that's if you look at the hashtags, if you're just interested in collage art, you can just look up collage art hashtag. You can like skip all of the, you know, other stuff that might, you know, be not to your liking or whatever. Just, you know, just have like a scroll of just like collage art from all over. And so I think that's really cool. And that's a really great way.
People all over the globe, but with the Collage Club, we try to get more members from Africa and Asia. And we did an open call, and we had almost 2,000 people who wanted to participate in the Collage Club. And I think we found only about 10% from Asia who wanted to join from all those persons. And it was really, maybe it's a language question because we did the open call in English. But there were probably more, but not because not everybody, it's clear which country or which nation you are from. But it's not all over the world. There, Africa and Asia are lacking in my algorithm. And maybe that's a language thing. That's why also with Februarage, another project I'm organizing, we try to have as many translations of the official prompt list, and this year we're going to have Arabic for the first time. So we hope that maybe we can connect more with with that part of the world, because I'm sure people are cutting up magazines there too.
Something to consider is that not all countries have the same access to social media. There are issues of censorship with things like Instagram, especially in places like China. And that also contributes to the way that we're able to dialogue with communities around the world, and is another reason to sort of keep in mind ways to open up other forms of connection. I think there is, you know, there are places that are more well represented, or more sort of like populous in the digital world from that correspond with digital areas or with global areas. For that reason, is also something to consider.
And I want to pick up on something I believe Marty had said about when he was talking about movements and this kind of like living in the real world, that kind of coming together in person and the power of that. And to that end, I thought, because we're approaching the end of our time, to really ask the group if folks wanted to create a collage community in their own physical geographic location, what do you recommend? What tips do you have for them? How would you start?
I have a project that I've done that's different than the Postal Collage project. It's the same method of collaboration, a circular sequential process, but it takes place out of the public library. And so the public library, people go there and they borrow a collage in progress, and they take it home and they work on it and they bring it back, So it's more of like a hub-oriented kind of project rather than passing it around. And it works well in that setting because typically a library or a community center also offers get-togethers and rooms in which those kinds of activities can bring people together in person. They don't necessarily even need to be working on the same collage group, but just to be part of the community that is engaging in this particular social experiment of collaborative, independent collage making can also be done together with people in the same room at places like libraries and community centers. If you have those in your community, you would need at least one representative from those kinds of institutions who's willing to be the point person to make events in the get-togethers happen, and also to organize something like the hub of the borrowing and the taking home and bringing back of works in progress.
Does it help to have a project to bring a group together versus like the like space and time of just free meeting? Like, is it having a goal like or some project to do is also a good strategy?
Perhaps what I found is that having materials out and available, a workspace, tools, materials, and supplies, if you just put that out, it's almost the same with little kids. If you just give them the time and the materials, they'll just get right at it. And there is something about collage that I think people feel that way. They see all this around and they realize there's nothing stopping me from deciding why that one thing looks better over here and over there, and everybody can investigate their own compositional preferences. And so it's very inviting, I think, to just have a table full of materials and workspace.
Allison, did you find that like when you were starting out, like just put it out there and folks will come?
Yeah, that's often how our open meets are. But we've also found, you know, some people do like a little bit more guidance to get started, or they like a challenge. So we've done both. We've done kind of project-based and we've done open nights. But generally speaking, our monthly nights that we were doing, we would just had boxes of materials that we would bring. We had folding tables we would set up and scissors and glue and just let people have at it. And sometimes they would collaborate and sometimes they would just kind of noodle around with their own stuff. And that was cool. But we were starting to move towards some more project-based stuff that's been delayed now because of COVID. We were, it was interesting to hear about what Marty had been doing with like libraries and stuff. We were getting involved with Ramsey County Libraries, which is like the St. Paul area, northern suburbs, to do some project-based stuff that we'll hopefully be able to revisit post-pandemic. And we're investigating ways to move that online. But you get different people involved by doing it both ways. That's, I think, the biggest lesson I've learned from being involved in a collage community and trying to build more community. People are looking for different things and people have different styles of learning, of course. So as you bring more people into your community, you're able to sort of provide more services and resources and activities to bring even more people in and make it more accessible and more comfortable and learn more and push yourselves further. So that's something that I really like.
Interesting. Marco, how are you building this community in Chile?
I think one important key was to do an open call to all people, even if there are college artists or not, because we can understand how is the context in where they are making collage art. And because we are on quarantine about the COVID, so it's very difficult to make groups in a physical place. So internet was very important to make this Centro de Estudios.
Ms. Printed, do you find your group impacted a lot by COVID? Because you are already kind of occupying the virtual space.
Yes, but it's a bit because with the Collage Garden, we had to change what we do because it's not possible now to organize a garden and to interact with the people who live in that area. I noticed it also with locative collage. The collages I leave on the street, normally somebody asks, "What are you doing?" And now everybody just go around and nobody asks, "What are you doing?" And it's that conversation you need for a successful collage garden, I think. So now we did a different project, which is more exclusive because we selected from an open call. It's a bit a shame, but then we can hang them in a cafe and people can look at it, but you won't have the conversation. And yeah, that's really a shame. We don't notice it with the Collage Club because that's a limited group. When I started it, it was just me and Delphine from Delphine, and it became more and more popular. And we had to think: are we going to make this a project where there's going to be 200 people or 2,000? Or but we decided that we wanted to get to know each other, and that's why we limited to around 50 people. And since we are online, it isn't changed that way. And the museum, it's open. So, but there was a lot of less traffic in the summer. In the summer, there are normally a lot of tourists coming in, and I saw that it was mostly Norwegian names in the guest book this year. Yeah, but I also wondered, maybe they didn't touch the pen this year. Maybe they didn't write the names, or I don't know.
Jennifer Wallace in our Q&A talks about how it's really difficult in the UK to plan meetings, in part because of the social distancing requirement. I think a lot of our conversation is envisioning a world post COVID-19 where we can meet together and come together, because it is impractical and not very responsible to be organizing meetups in, next month. But beyond that, Kevin, is it is the recipe find a good space, bring really great materials, maybe have an activity or so for those folks who are not necessarily just wanting to open or jump in on their own, and then you did a lot of like just checking in with folks and making sure everyone's comfortable hosting, and it grows over time. Is that the recipe?
Yeah, there's not as many like pre-planned sort of like exercises or themes or anything like that. I mean, there could be, but I found that most people just like to kind of like work on what they're doing. Yeah, the recipe is finding a good space, which usually is a big space. So you'd have to kind of find a nice big open space, and especially right now where even after COVID, people are probably going to be a little cautious for a while. So it'd be good to have like a bigger space, even like something like the size of like a basketball court, it's like, and just kind of have all the tables like spread out or whatever. And just having materials and stuff. It was great in New Orleans, like at Collage Fest. We had that space in the bar and in the back room there, and it wasn't like a huge space, but it was really nice. And we had the sort of like the community thing, the group collage thing on the wall that people could like play around with too. And so that was fun because people were kind of doing their own thing, but then they would turn around and like, oh, I'm going to put this part on the wall and like contribute to this crazy thing here. So yeah, and as far as spaces go too, it could be anything from like a community center space to like maybe like a gallery space. Like a lot of times galleries have like kind of the open spaces in their buildings, and so yeah.
I think it would be really interesting to write a play about a collage group that meets in a library, and it's about how horrified the librarians are at the things we do to those books. On that note, I'm going to thank our panelists for joining us today. And Allison,
can I say one other thing?
Please.
I just want to say that I think another key thing to building these communities is if you can, don't do it alone. Find other people to work with. it's been hard during this pandemic. I feel like a lot of it is on my shoulders, and I'm kind of not doing enough. And it helps to have those people that you can reach out to and that can take some of that load for you.
I agree with that.
Thank you for adding that.
Yeah.
Final thought, Allison?
Oh, just I really agree with that. And especially for someone like me who's pretty much isolated all of the time because of COVID, it's great to be able to connect with my collage community, to connect with the international collage community. And we're, Twin Cities Collage Collective is working on some projects to hopefully make other online spaces for people to hang out. So for that, I guess.
Well, on that note, thank you everyone for joining us today. Thank you panelists for kind of representing your communities and sharing. What we got to do is just keep connected to one another, and we will get through this and come out on the other end even tighter and more of a community than we were going in. So thank you everyone. I think the next Collage Live event is December 6th, if I have that correct, where I'm going to be talking about how to collage, and specifically how to collage magazine and what we mean by that, and working with us, the magazine. So I look forward to seeing folks there. Thank you for everyone who posted a question to the Q&A, and have a wonderful weekend, folks. To our American friends, have a wonderful Thanksgiving, and be safe out there. We'll hang out and chat a little bit if people want to chat, but I'm going to let everyone get off camera and go their way. Thank you, everybody. Bye.
Thank you.
Hey, Allison.
Yeah.
You like collage cassette covers? you have like a bunch of cassettes there. Do you make mixtapes and make collage covers?
I have designed cassette covers before. That's just some of my cassette collection. I like cassettes and VHS tapes.
That's a great backdrop, because usually people have books in the background. So.
It's just what happens to be right there. This is just sort of the best corner of my home, a little bit better than my super messy and cluttered studio for a Zoom call. So yeah, but a friend of mine has been collecting just junk off of the curb in his neighborhood. Someone in his neighborhood is clearly cleaning out their house after living there for decades, and he brought me this big box of VHS tapes, just people's tapes of PBS programs, but it's got all the great 80s VHS home recording sleeves. And so I think I'm gonna start I'm gonna scan them and then cut them up, because I know there are some people who are gonna want to see. I mean, they're not super rare or anything, but it's good to archive at times what you're working with, and then just do stuff with it. So it should be fun.
Question, is it just us, the panelists now, or is everybody still listening to our conversation?
There's a few people hanging out. There's 15 attendees left. We can hang out as long as we want.
We are a bit public. Okay.
Yeah,
okay.
This is sort of an after party, I guess.
Because it's a bit strange that I can't see them because they're here too. And yeah. Okay.
Give away some secret or something like that.
Well, actually, something we didn't get to, I wanted to ask was how did you all source your materials for your communities? Because I saw somebody in the chat say that was something they were struggling with, finding materials.
I'm lucky because I live in Portland, so there's tons of bookstores and stuff, and there's lots of vintage stores, and there's a couple of really good used magazine places even. So I'd go there sometimes and get stuff for myself, old copies of Life magazine or things like that. And sometimes it'd be $2 a copy, but if it was kind of torn up, the guy would just give it to me for 50 cents or something. So sometimes I would do that. But I also work at Powell's bookstore, and we throw out a lot of books sometimes that get rejected at the used book buyer's counter and stuff. So I'll kind of dumpster dive at work sometimes and find really cool stuff. And yeah, and then friends bring stuff. So once people know that you're looking for stuff, friends will start bringing a lot of stuff too.
Yeah, that would have been my advice too. Put the word out.
Yeah, put the word out. People bring stuff to my house all the time. even in the pandemic, they just leave it for me. A bunch of friends have been doing that. They just have been cleaning their houses and just unloading anything paper on me. They're like leaving X-Files trading cards at my house. And then Ben, who I know is still in the chat, Biblio Excavations, he's done some dumpster diving for us at like half price books. And then I have some discount like magazine subscriptions that I'm able to get through like, I don't know, a survey website that I did once. So that's how we and I also used to work at a salon. So I would get the magazines from the salon. And that's how we've been able to kind of collect a lot of resources for the community. There are people who like will contact me and just be like, I need some collage material. Can I come pick some up from your house? Sure. It's fine. Just come get it. It's fine.
Yeah, our community box has grown.
Here in Chile is the same. You can go to the hair salon to ask for magazines.
That's good.
I feel very lucky in the San Francisco Bay Area. The organization called Friends of the San Francisco Library has an annual book sale that lasts for 4 days, and it's just an enormous building space with tens of thousands of books on tables for sale. And on the 4th day, everything is $1. So I've got atlases that are big, beautiful old atlases for $1, photography books, any and every kind of book, old and new, can be got for very cheap at an event like that. But I'm not sure how common those events are. But if you're in an urban area and you have a public library system, it may be that they have some kind of way of channeling out old books that can be valuable.
Here at the library, you can take old magazines with you for free. And it was really fun that for a few years ago, there was the library in Bergen, which is the second city in Norway. They wrote me and they asked if I want to come there and to do a collage workshop because they had so many magazines and books which were going out, and they thought it would be fun if they would be used for collage. I didn't do it at that time because I couldn't travel, but I do hope to do that in the future. Library is really a good source.
Yeah, library is a great source. Here in New Orleans, there's a library that and I would recommend like going to your library and finding a librarian and saying like, do you have anything that I can take for free? Here in New Orleans, we have a library where they have like a basement full of old books that they've tried to sell at those types of like garage sale events, and then they haven't. So it's a good source.
My personal books I get on a very different way. I have most of them are from about 1940, 1930 and 1950, but that's my mother. She's always talking to elderly people, and she's so proud of me, and she tells them, look, this is what my daughter does, and then they say, oh, I have some at home too, but you have to come to visit me then. And then she spends an afternoon drinking coffee with them, and they appreciate it really a lot to have a visit, and she mostly gets the book for free. So that's that's another way, a proud mom.
That's kind of a collage community unto itself, is getting the materials from your community, even if they're not involved in collage. That's kind of a community process as well.
Yeah.
Which I like. Sorry.
I have a question.
Yeah, Marco.
How many times are you going with these communities?
What do you mean?
How many, when it started, your community?
Oh, like my specific community?
You all communities.
Oh yeah, the Mystic Krewe of Scissors and Glue started in 2018 in August.
Oh, that's nice.
The eldest collage community is the Brooklyn Collage Collective. I think that's the eldest that I know of.
Well, and then if you include like the Collage Artists of America, that's like one where you have to like pay dues. I think they've been around since like the 80s or 90s, if I remember my research correctly.
Okay.
I think some people here are like starting up like a Northwest Collage Collective or something like that for I think some people, Cheryl's friends like around Seattle and, you know, like Washington State and, you know, Portland's just a couple of hours from them. So, but yeah, I think that's starting up too. So there's like stuff that's like been around for a few years, and there's stuff that's like starting up all the time. So,
yeah, I just saw in the chat, somebody said that they just started a New York collective, Collage Collective, just recently. So they're always popping up.
Susan
Yeah,
Lerner, Mixed Media Mashup, if you want to look for her on Instagram.
What is that?
Her name is Susan Lerner, Lerner, the one who voted. If you want to find out more about that one.
Yeah. Well, I'm gonna hop off. Anybody can hang out if you want, but it's been great talking to all of y'all.
Thank you.
Thanks very
so
much. Thanks for making it happen.
Christopher.
Thank you.
Bye.
Does anyone want to chat longer or?
what's your cat's name?
This is Monty or Momo. I have another one named Pip, and she's not around, which is funny because she kept me up all night screaming and knocking things over.
Oh yeah.
You know.
Are they indoor, outdoor?
They're indoor. They're both kind of younger. I had a bonded pair for a long, long time. One of them was 20 years old, and I had her entire life. Who passed away recently, so these are the more recent pair, and they're young and energetic.
Yeah.
I haven't had young cats in a while, so they're fun. She very politely waited until after the actual discussion to make her appearance.
My daughter came in when we were discussing, and she was eating a wisecracker. So I thought everybody could hear that. But maybe you didn't notice that.
Yeah.
I warned them not to come in, but they did, of course.
It was very nice to meet you all. Thank you for this opportunity.
Yeah, thank you. It was so nice to meet you. It's fun to see people's faces and hear voices.
Yes, absolutely. Great to meet everybody.
Yeah, we need to do this more often.
Yeah.
It's very interesting.
And it can be done informally also, just by communicating with one another and making arrangements. So I think that's a good idea to try to keep some of these things going. I've been doing this global project for all of these years, and I've never really worked out how to have people into an exhibition that were not in the area. But I feel like this is possibly a way to get people who are collaborating around the world on the project to be able to talk with one another.
Yeah,
so,
absolutely.
And I would love to talk to all of you again in the future about, just keep in touch with what everybody's up to.
Marty, do you have a website thing for your group?
Yeah, roundtablecollaboration.com.
Okay.
And that's got all kind of information about ongoing things and past. It's all the documentation of past projects. There's definitely contact information, imagery, all kind of things on there.
Yeah, I would like to keep in touch with everyone, and maybe we can do some kind of informal like Zoom Q&A where people can. There were some people who I know wanted to come to this who weren't able to because of the timing.
Yes.
Or
and it was sold out. Like Cheryl, she wrote me that it was sold out or something. There weren't any tickets available.
I gave her my link, and she came in. She was like, but she had my name on her box too.
Yeah, it wasn't sold out.
that was
yeah. Yeah.
Okay. I'm going to drinking some tea and relaxing because I was very nervous for this. Okay. Bye.
Okay, bye.
Bye.
Bye,
everyone.
Allison, what's your Instagram handle?
It's Allison Ann Design Create. It's long, and I'm gonna change it. It's just so long.
Okay, Allison Ann will be.
I want to say hello to Gaba Lamas, who is writing on the chat. We here in Chile, we are starting to Escuelita de Collage. It's like a school about collage. We will have 10 class during this month, so it's gonna be very nice. For the very first beginning about history of college and steampunk, I don't know how to say, esculturas. It's gonna be fantastic. So
That sounds
they,
exciting.
yeah, they are 10 class and are for free, so it's really, really nice.
That's awesome. Are you having them online because of the
Uh,
pandemic?
Yeah, you can find it in. I'm gonna put it on the chat, so
Great.
you can visit. Oh, I don't know how to do it.
Is it going to be,
There is it.
does it cost money or donation or anything like that?
It was with for the government help,
Uh-huh.
for emergency help to the artist. So it was a group who present this idea, and it was a good idea for the government. So
Marco, what's your, do you have an Instagram name?
yeah, I'm gonna put it on the chat.
Yeah, that's great.
It's in Spanish is Marco estuvo aquí, but in English you say it Marco was here.
Oh.
That's the meaning. Yeah, there is in the chat. So I need to go right now, but I'm completamente agradecido. I'm greatly grateful. So thank you so much.
Thank you. It was great to meet you and hear what you had to say.
Bye.
Bye.
This is my,
Oh,
her name is Susan. She's just like a little over a year old too.
oh, she's so cute.
She's very cute.
Oh,
She's just
there's
sleeping.
the glamour shot right at the camera.
She's like the softest kitty.
That's so nice.
Yeah.
Are there any, let's see, are there folks still here? Looks like there's still a few people here. Is there anything anyone would like to talk about, like the attendees, anyone who's left? Do you have any questions or anything you'd like to hear from the three of us about?
Yeah. I think it's
This is the long Minnesotan goodbye. That's like the joke here, that Minnesotans don't know how to say goodbye or end conversations or hangouts, and it's true. It's true. So
yeah, that's funny. Is it the Midwest like politeness?
I guess I think it's more like being non-committal. Like that's how folks are. Let's see who's still. We have two attendees in here, Mark Murphy, who I know is in the UK, and then Jay Long, who I don't know. I don't know. I guess if it's just us, maybe we should end it. But it was really nice to meet you. Kevin, you want some VHS covers to collage with? I can send you some.
I'm okay. I'm kind of like swimming in materials over here, so yeah.
Yeah, I understand.
All right. Well, yeah, great to meet you, and we'll talk to you some other time. Hopefully, maybe we'll see you at Collage Fest one of these years.
Yeah, I wanted to go this summer, but pandemic. Next time.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, it was great to meet you. Thanks for being here.
All right. See you, Christopher and Christopher.
Bye, everyone. Thank you.
Bye.